Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today, I'm talking about New Moon by William Relling Jr. This was published by Tor Horror way back in the day. What is the copyright date? 1987. I called an audible with this book. I talked about previously. People had voted on what I was going to read in October, and I finished all of that except for the one that I didn't bother to finish because I didn't like it. And I had said that I was going to read Silent Moon. It was one that people could have voted on. Nobody did. I was going to read that, but it turns out it is a sequel to this. I had looked on the internet, didn't see anything that said it was a sequel, but there's an author's note that says it was a sequel to this. So, got to read the first book first. So, New Moon. Let's go with what it says on the back. The West Side Butcher. The West Side Butcher case is driving Detective Sergeant Len Malecki crazy. He can't figure out what ties the victims together other than the fact that they are all young, all female, and all brutally murdered, partially dismembered, organs missing. The killer must be a madman, and Len Malecki's very good at catching madmen. The West Side Butcher is not mad. An immortal evil magician, he has been accidentally freed from his 100-year entombment. The murders are sacrifices to his dark gods, who in return give him wealth, power, and eternal life. The West Side Butcher is in love with... I'm going to leave after this last part because it's kind of spoilery. So that's basically your nutshell. I don't know why that last part is on there. For the too long didn't watch folks, I gave this 5 out of 5. I really, really loved this book. Now, a few years ago, I read a book called Brujo, which was William Relling Jr.'s first novel, and I don't remember what I gave that. It had to be a 4 or a 5. There's killer animals in it. I liked this one even more. It starts off with that evil magician being released from his tomb. So we know there's this thing, this supernatural element. And then it becomes, for a long time, it's just a mystery. We're introduced to Len Malecki, and he's trying to solve this serial killer case. We know, we don't know specifically. A lot of times it's just referred to, the monster is what the book will say. The monster did this, the monster did that. We don't know. Eventually we do, but we don't know the monster's human identity. So it's reading like a Paperbacks from Hell level Silence of the Lambs kind of thing. And I loved the characters. William Relling Jr. gives us a bevy of wonderful characters, wonderful character relationships. There's another detective that I thought was going to be the main character because he's introduced before Len Malecki is, but he's not. But he pops up here and there, and there's this relationship between he and Len, and we meet Len's ex-wife, and Len's best friend is the county coroner, and the dynamics between those two, the dynamics between Len and his ex-wife, the dynamics between Len and the police captain, and just I really, really enjoyed it. There's the dialogue feels natural and isn't just there to convey information to the reader. The things that some people might say, well, why is that even there? It's not telling me anything new. It's telling you about the characters. They're not spoon feeding you the information. They're building the characters. The one negative I have for this book is there is a huge coincidence. It just felt, as soon as I read it, I was like, really? That's an awfully big coincidence, but not big enough to dampen my enjoyment of this book. I'm very excited to read the next one, but I'm putting it off. You know, gratification delayed. Or as some people might say, delayed gratification. um, but yeah, just fantastic, straightforward writing. It's the characters that really make this book shine. And apparently, William Relling Jr. went on to write mysteries, and I can easily see that. Because, again, there is that supernatural element to it, that little bit at the beginning. And then, I mean, we know that these murders are supernatural in nature, they're ritualistic in nature, but the characters don't. And we don't get back to any type of actual supernatural goings on that we know of until later in the book. And some people might find that annoying. They're like, hey, I'm reading a horror novel, I'm reading about this immortal evil magician, but I'm not getting anything from him. But it's not about that. I'm shocked at how much I enjoyed this book. I thought maybe I'd get something enjoyable like Brujo, which again, killer animals, I liked it. But the characters in this just make it fantastic, in my humble opinion. That's why I gave New Moon by William Relling Jr. 5 out of 5 stars. And you gotta love that cover. He's got a little note. Apparently, it takes place in St. Louis, and apparently this arch is in the wrong spot. But he says, it's fiction. It's a fictional world. So maybe in the world where this takes place, that's where the arch is. And he says, there's also not a giant pentagram with candles floating above the city. So, suck it up. Anybody who's upset that the arch is in the wrong place, geographically speaking. Don't know what else to say. Amazing characters, interesting story, big coincidence, but I let it go. And just loved this book. New Moon, William Relling Jr. Recommendations. This is one I find sometimes that making recommendations can be spoilery. So, and I didn't think ahead because I'm just not that bright. I guess I don't have any recommendations for this one. I really need to think ahead from now on. The question for this video, it's a reading question. What does it take to spoil a book for you? And I don't mean like spoiler warning type spoil. I mean spoil like you don't enjoy it anymore. As I said, there's a huge coincidence in here. And if I hadn't absolutely loved everything else about this book, that type of huge coincidence might have ruined it for me. But sort of like, for those of you who watched my Beast Stalker review, the story was kind of spoiled by this unreliable author incident that I felt was there. Can't say unreliable narrator because it's in third person. I felt that the author didn't play fair in the story, and that spoiled the book a little bit for me. It lowered my rating, as a matter of fact. But in this case, it wasn't enough to affect my rating. So is there something when you're reading a book, even if you're enjoying it, everything's fine, and then you just come upon something that spoils it for you, whether it's something you consider an overused trope or something that well, I don't know. That's that's all I can. Overused tropes is what came to mind. So, is there anything like that, or do you? What are you willing to overlook? That could be subsection B for this question. Generally, for me, if it's I I really dislike continuity errors. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. I don't like a huge coincidence normally. And I suppose if we get into spoiler territory down in the comments, I can tell you what I consider to be the huge coincidence. Maybe you wouldn't see it that way. But continuity errors bother me. But is that a sign of just a sign of bad writing? Um, these huge coincidences, conveniences. I tend to think it's bad writing that bothers me, but that sort of negates the question, which is if you're really enjoying the book, what is it that's going to spoil it for you? Um, anyway, let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. And on Bluesky, I am @EL Smith. That's all I've got for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.